this congestion zone to identify the next high probability path.
Morning.
Morning, Nick.
Taking a neutral
Morning, everyone.
stance. What's up, Dan? He said, I'm taking a neutral stance. I ain't touching. Like, guys, I can't wait until we confirm his personality stuff, and then we can have you choose a sarcastic model. So we were debating last night on whether we will allow a sarcastic model on the report, because I don't know that I worry that a little sarcasm and all that will impede the data. And this report is very important, right? But it would be kind of funny, if it's like, instead of saying I'm taking a neutral stance, it's like, I ain't touching a position with a 10-foot pole. I'm gonna go take a walk. I'll be back. Like, if you go in a trade now, you're stupid. Guys, well, morning. Let's see. Pre-market, I think I didn't even ask if people took trades. We did a really deep educational dive within it. Our mentor program trades on Sunday Asia Open, and so we did really well actually on the Sunday Asia Open, and so we don't really need to trade much at all today. So we actually played the counter push. So we had the push, a rejection off the highs, and then we took the shorts here, kind of came up on the rejection reclaim. We took the shorts there. And so between, here, and here, pretty much, I think we actually got this one. Yeah, and then we ended up, it was, within these two, and then somewhere here is where we ended it. So, ended up a really good day for most of the people that were in there. I think everybody actually said they were green. So, the beauty of, in the mentor group of that, right, we get the Sunday Asia Open trades in, and then we don't have to force trades on Monday, right? So, pretty cool. So we didn't really take much on the pre-market, but we were just doing some educational stuff. As far as the TA goes of the pre-market, we kind of marked out a few lines. I went through, kind of cleaned up the chart a little bit. Got rid of all my lower lines, right? We'll re-establish those once we go back into that range. A few things that we're kind of looking at, right? We're up in this area that is literally BFE, right? Like, it's just, there's nothing up here, right, that we can look left to see. So we just have to stick with, candle progression, structure, things like that. And so when you look at this, there's a lot of things that I can do that are beginning to box it in a little bit, right, to give us at least some kind of idea of structural area. And so we identified this, our kind of trend here.
MNQ is struggling for direction. Currently,
I'm going to mute him for now, but I'm going to leave him unmuted when we go into open, which I'll explain in a second. So this is a really critical low here. Now the teal line I haven't removed because it's kind of our line there, right, which looks slightly off. I hate when you go through the cross time frame because I feel like I just fixed this, but it might have been like a 4 hour. So I'm going to put it back on there because I like the 1 hour. Nope, don't do that. Can't stand they put the delete or trash can right next to the lock button. Done that before. But this is our larger channel north, right? And guys, we have 2 points here and we haven't even touched it since, right? Now, arguably, if you pulled this up into these lows there and cut that wick, right, that would have touched it. So, but you guys know I typically like to take the safer play. So at some point we will get to this teal line. I'm not sure when that will be, right? But we're pretty high probability to get there at some point. So, but looking at the kind of top area, right, we do have something you can kind of pull from here, which gives you a little bit of a pretty high angled area, but we're just trying to identify some rejection points. I like this secondary oscillation that we grab and kind of do a little Gann fan within it, because now you have a really good structure here that's respecting that. So you see how we're starting to kind of formulate where we might see some ceilings, right? I got to see how that respects, right? But the only higher one that we have is up here, right? And so I might actually change this one to like purple or something, because this is kind of our peak. This 728 one, guys, um, the only thing we used on that, it was we took a measured move play. So what I did is I took the what did we do? I think we did it on the lower time frame, was it, or was it the 4 hour? Let me look and see. No, it was the 4 hour. So we took this high and low, right, as our kind of expansion, and we put it overlaid on this push, right? And if this push stays similar to that, which these are some amongst the larger pushes, like singular ones, that would put it somewhere up there, right? So it's very like soft. So don't hold a lot of weight on that line. That's more of a theory. So we know that we're finally starting to get some top to this. Now, there's a few things that I have concerns with today, whether I have long or short bias. So for me, I'm likely only taking shorts. I'm not taking longs, just because of the fact that we're so close and rejecting off our prior day high, right? Which is big for me. Plus, we're getting into this range where I'm starting to see, decent pushes like this, but we're getting a lot of really decent pulls. So when I see this type of movement, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, I don't have to capture every move. I just need to be patient and capture the short move, right? And you guys saw Friday, I talked about it. I said, man, we have ability to really push today, but I'm probably gonna stay short. And then we didn't even sweep low. We just went nonstop up, right? It was pretty crazy. And so you can see this was kind of what we went through, and just exploded. Remember when this was going through? I'm like, not really buying it, right? We got to get below this low before we get the breakdown. We never got it. Kind of waited almost all the way to here. It was damn near an hour, right, before we decided to start jumping into shorts, and then where a lot of us caught that drop. Now it's easy to say, well, why didn't you take that long? Well, if it's against my rules or my plans, right, I don't want to take it. So I was cool with waiting and being patient and still take my short. And so I give that as an example, because when I say I'm more short, it doesn't mean I think we're just going to the floor. Like I said it here. It just means I'm looking for shorts, right? And so I might just be really patient for that short setup to play and then take it. I'm just not comfortable doing that. Now, hindsight's a beautiful thing in trading. You don't know that that's going to keep going like that. There's just no way to know, right? So you got to stick with your bias, and then just, if the market begins to go against your bias, you got to just wait. So if I say here, I'm going to stay more short, and then, open sweeps, but then we reclaim this, I'm not really in a short condition, right? So I might have to wait for this, and it could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, shoot, maybe the whole session, right? But this is where you got to be able to exhibit, some patience and discipline, right? And so we had a lot of really good discussions last night on that in the mentor group, right? About emotions, controlling emotions, not feeling like you have to capture FOMO. And I keep making kind of a bold statement, which I will always stand by, that you will 100% not find consistency as long as you consistently let FOMO take over your decisions, right? If you fear missing out, like I could easily that Friday said, hey man, I should have been long. That's a $300 move. I could have made all this money, like $12,000 or whatever volume you're trading, right? But it doesn't do you any good, right? Like even this, back in the day, I would be like, dang, what happened at 6? And then I would look at it and be like, oh man, that's a pretty clear structure. We broke, the bear flat. Like, man, like I would have seen that. I would have called that. Like, oh, I should have got up at 6. Dang, if I would have got up 6, I would have entered, in the break here. And then this thing dropped 300. Like, we go down this like FOMO lottery ticket dream of like all the reasons you would have caught that, which in reality, you probably would have took a trade, got domed out there and then missed it anyways, right? And so you gotta. I don't look at this as anymore. I used to. I like that. I look at this like, oh, cool, this happened. All right, this tells me a lot because on a high time frame, right, that's likely a wick of things, right? And so like if I go to the higher time frame, like a 1 or a 4 hour, right, there's my wick. That's what I look for, right? Similar to how I do my 15 second, now that I have this absorption to the north, if I close above, that 901 kind of area, we're going up like really big. But if I close below, right, or I stay below that area, then it's going to go down really big, right? So you can see on the 1 hour, I mean, we have some potential bearish things setting up, right? I mean, you kind of got your little potential head and shoulders. Now, this could take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours before, we get that, is it going to break down or is it not? Now, what makes this a little hard is that this sweep here came out during kind of a news thing, right, where back on the whole Iran thing going on, and so I guess there was something that happened that caused it to sweep, and then I guess it was invalidated, and so it reclaimed. And so now that's something you gotta, this is part of what I say, you want to understand technicals, but you gotta still be aware of the news, because when you see these sweeps like this, right, I know that this was more news related, so I may not put a lot of technical weight behind it unless it continues to act that way, right? And so, we could still have this potential head and shoulders in play, right, within that. So again, we'll walk through and break it down as the market opens. We got 2 minutes, so I'm going to jump back into here. I am going to mention just quickly for everybody on TikTok as well as in the room here that we did some really, really cool updates to Neo this weekend, guys. I always say this every Friday, like, guys, it's been a great week. It's been a busy week. Like, get some rest. I'm gonna get some rest too, man. It's been a long week, and it just never happens that way. So, every time I find out something new with what we can do with Neo, man, my mind just runs, and then I'm not a very patient person. I'm like, Paul and Alex, I've learned that where it's like when we have an idea, I'm like, let's do it, like tonight, like now. You guys want to do an all nighter? Like, let's get some pizza. Like it just, I don't have patience for that, especially when I see the potential of how it can help a lot of you, right? And so we do have market open coming. I'm not going to trade the first couple candles. Let's just let it settle. So I'm just going to say briefly on Neo. We did like a complete overhaul with a lot of his internal code, not changing the trading logic, but we actually were able to add a personality to Neo, right? We have confirmed that it's possible, we just haven't seen it in action yet, that I want to make it to where when anything that you're in with Neo, guys, and again, I would not trade this market open, we'll look at it in a second, anything within Neo, you guys will have a microphone that you can talk to him, and he's going to be like talking to Grok or Siri or whoever you're talking to, right? And you can ask him things like, hey, I'm in this long, here's my entry, like, based on this long option you gave, like, what should I be concerned about? Like, I'm a little nervous, right? And he's going to be like, yeah, I understand. Like, he's going to come back and talk about it and give you kind of real-time on-demand guidance versus just having to wait for the next 5-minute update, right? That's something we're looking for. One thing that we're also going to do is in our trading courses, you're going to make it to where when you're in a course like this and you're inside the book, right? If you don't understand something, like let's say you're going through here, I don't know, we'll find something like, risk transfer mechanism, right? You're like, what is that? You'll have a microphone that you can literally be like, hey, Neo, I'm taking this lesson on whatever, it says this. Can you elaborate? And then he's going to explain to you what it means, right? And so you're never taking a trading course without fully understanding the course, right? And so it's going to be freaking absolutely sick, guys, from what I've seen on that possibility. So
Hello, I'm Neo. Let's capture the move.
let's put him back here. So anyway, so we took a chance and we wrote all that code and Alex did, and you know we were up till even like 2 a.m. last night, and um, yesterday we did a push, and I was like, oh, we'll see if he breaks, and he actually came back a little better, right? We were studying it and talking about it in the mentor group, right? And he actually, I think his calls are a little more better, more improved, and he's saying things that he wasn't doing before, right? And so like he was doing things like short option or long option none, and that was just what he said, right? And so now he started, and this is not something I added. This he did this himself. Now that he has his personality, he's told like, hey, you're the trader, you're the man, right? You're teaching students. Like people are watching you. Like don't you know you got to keep them safe. You got to give them the guidance, right? And so he started putting none, and then he started putting stuff after, and I'm like, I thought it was a mistake. Right? I was telling Alex like, oh, we got to fix that, and then I look, and it says none as the price is currently fallen into the support reclaims, you know, the 1 minute anchored VWAP, you know, to regain the bullish viability, right? So he's explaining why he said none. And so we actually asked him to interpret that, like, why are you not just doing none like your code says? And he was like, well, I feel like the students need to know why there's none. And I'm like, oh, makes sense. So, you know, it's pretty freaking cool, guys, what we're going to do with him. But so many more things, right? But I don't want to take up too much into the open. So, but so my plan today, guys, is I'm going to guide you guys through a little bit of the open here just to see where these swing wick highs, lows go. And then I'm going to let him talk. And so I'm going to unmute him. And when he does talk, I will stop talking. But if I see something really crazy or something you need to identify, you know, if you're watching my screen, you'll just kind of see me circle it while he's talking, you know, something like that with my mouse. If it's really pertinent, then I'll just mute him quickly, right? So, yeah, a lot of exciting. We'll talk more about it once we're all done here because it's gonna be awesome. So, looking at the market open, we didn't really miss much. So if you guys notice, right, like I was saying here, we have our swing high. The swing high did not reach a higher high. Pushed us into a little bit of a swing low, but the swing low did not reach a lower low. So we're not really missing much on open here anyways. So if we break this down, you know, through our kind of logic and indicators, right, we know here we have a little bit of a absorption to the north, right? But then this one we got it kind of to the south, and so we have that as a high, this is a low. Because of this one here, I would look more at this high, but we identified in the mentor group that this one marked 4H. That's a 4-hour flat top that was part of that big old drop. So anything that stays below that, guys, is going to run a risk of dropping pretty good. I don't care, even if we push up to it, right? As long as we don't breach that 4-hour candle's flat top.
MNQ has broken down decisively below the key EMA 200 and anchored VWAP support cluster, shifting the immediate structural bias back to the bears as price attempts to find a floor. Sentiment, bearish pressure. Confidence, 7 out of 10. Reason, price has failed to hold the 27,846.0 to 27,848.0 confluence and both the 1-minute LSMA. 27,848.87 and 15 seconds EMA have flipped bearish, confirming a breakdown in the recent consolidation concerns. The 5 minutes LSMA at 27,811.6 is the next major macro support level, which could attract buyers and potentially trigger a bounce if the bearish momentum loses intensity. Long entry option, none, as the overhead structural resistance from the 1-minute LSMA and 1-minute EMA 200 is within the 20-point buffer, disqualifying any long side expansion. Short entry option, a short entry becomes valid on a confirmed retest and rejection of the 1-minute EMA 200, 27,846. 20, target the 5 minutes LSMA 27,811.6 with invalidation above 27,865.0. Summary, the market has triggered a bearish breakdown by losing its primary structural support, I am looking for a short-term rally into the newly formed resistance zone to facilitate an entry for a continuation toward the 5 minutes Lisma support.
Yeah. Love it. You notice his summary has changed a little bit too, right? Where he's like, hey, I'm looking for this short-term rally, all that. Some of those changes are, I think, what is consistent with the personality thing, right? But what he's saying, right, is he don't really like the long because we're got a lot of overhead resistance, which we do, right? It's definitely there. His short, though, he only wants it if we come up and retest and reject off the 200, which it's doing now. So when you see a retest and rejection, right, I want to see some kind of doji close below with enough room to take that scalp there, or I want to see it reject with a close below here to take the OA, right, like the open air that we would have right from there. And so you can see, look at that perfect rejection off his call. So I took that one on there. Did anybody take it? It was a little brave as it's pushing up there, but those that are doing that $6 kind of tick TP, I'm gonna take a little more risks with that, as you guys know. But that was pretty cool, man. And when we're analyzing, guys, Neo and the decisions that he's making within, right? I want to look and see, did his call line up, right? And one thing that he's doing more and more, not only from the trading logic I gave him, but now that we've added personality, he's actually kind of pivoting. You guys notice that he's pivoting more like less continuation, more kind of top and bottom style. I mean, an argument with that is, I'm the one that's guiding him, so and that's what I do. But he's like, here, he's not talking about a pull. He's saying, hey, I want to have it push and then pull. And then if you notice, right, he actually said in it, I'm expecting a short-term rally. Or right here, right? Like, or I'm looking for a short-term rally into the formed resistance zone to facilitate my entry for continuation back to that Lisma. And look at it rallied, and we're back to Lisma. So I mean, he anticipated that freaking well, man. He did good on that one. So let me look at my accounts here, because I'm gonna do a couple of these other ones. So many of you guys in this room, man, you guys have seen him since day one, and isn't it funny, and anybody that has the ability to talk, I love to get this feedback, but isn't it funny, like, every time we think that he's good, like, man, he's solid, like, he's calling out great calls, like, we find a way to kind of make him better. Like, have you noticed that? Like, Chuck, yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy, like, and that's like my drive. Those who don't know me, who are just joining in the room here or on TikTok, that's just, not only me, right? Me, Alex, and Paul are probably some of the more driven people you'll find, right? When it comes to, I don't care how good it is, it can be better, right? I don't care how good I am as a trader, I could be better, right? And that's the logic and the mindset that you all have to take.
MNQ remains under bearish pressure, oscillating beneath a dense ceiling of structural resistance formed by the EMA 200 confluence and the 1-minute Lisma. Sentiment, bearish pressure. Confidence, 6 out of 10. Reason, price is failing to reclaim the 1-minute EMA 227,845.81 and 5 minutes EMA 227,846.28, confirming that these levels have shifted from support to active overhead resistance. Concerns, the 5 minutes Lisma 27,811.21 remains a persistent macro support level, and the price is currently sitting in a no man's land between the EMA resistance and this macro support, limiting the room for a high probability trade. Long entry option. A long entry becomes valid only upon a confirmed breakout and hold above the 1-minute EMA 227,845.81 and 1-minute Lisma 27,844.43. Target 27,875.16, with invalidation below 27,815.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a confirmed rejection of the current 1-minute EMA 2.0 resistance zone. Target the 5 minutes Lisma 27,811.21, with invalidation above 27855.0. Summary. The market is in a structural breakdown phase, with the EMA cluster acting as the primary barrier to any recovery. I am prioritizing short side opportunities on any bounce into the 27,845.0 to 27,846.0 resistance area, as the bias remains tilted toward a retest of the macro support at 27,811.21.
Yeah. So we're getting pretty good expansion on there. You know, when he did his call from there, right, he can see that, right? And so a lot of bias from that because of the resistance. Obviously, we're market open, so we're sweeping the high again, right? All this is this was our low, this was our high, right? So we're internal within that. So we ended up coming down a little bit. We got a lot of hammers here, dojis, getting the close above. That's why we're seeing this kind of deeper expansion, if you will. So let me see. So how this rejects is huge, guys. It's really, really big. So let's see how we reject, because we are coming into a lot of resistance as well there, plus the prior day high up into this area here. So let's take a look and see. So see how we're getting that kind of deeper pull within. So what I like to see is, you know, he put the long entry on there, confirmed break and hold above the 200 EMA, right? 845. Right there, right, would have been your break and hold. So we went from 50 to 87. So anybody who's doing long scalps, right, I did not take that. I love that that played out, right? Now his short entry only becomes valid on a confirmed rejection of the 1 minute. So even though we played out our long, I can use that as still a short, right, call. I would want to take a short if I get a close below there, right? Some kind of confirmed pull below that. So love that that logic that he put in that. So now what we want to see is how is this respecting this upper range. We do have gap fills down below. You see the DOM drops that we just got? I want to watch the order flow and see if we get any kind of persistence in those DOM drops, because remember, this is a very heavy resistance area, right? And this is very trend line. We're very wicky up here. I want to see is the order flow still pressuring southern, right? It's pressuring northern, but to me it's doing the like kind of quick drop southern, right? More so. But let's see if we get any kind of breach below this area in here from within. Dun, 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 dun. So we're getting a little bit of pressure north again. Let's see if the DOM wants to drop it, or see how we're getting these kind of quick little drops kind of around this area. So let's see if we expand through. This is hitting that $50 measurement that I love to do, and see how we're still getting some DOM drops from that. So now we're pulling into an area here, right, that it would want to do some kind of jumps. See how we're seeing the drops there? That's why we're getting that expansion in the fail.
MNQ has reclaimed the EMA 200 confluence, shifting the momentum into a recovery phase as it attempts to establish a new support floor above 27846.0. Sentiment. Bullish pressure. Confidence. 5 out of 10. Reason. Price has successfully reclaimed the 1 minute EMA 200, 27,846.24, and 5 minutes EMA 200, 27,846.9, and the 1 minute LISMA 27,843.78 has recently flipped bullish, signaling a short-term restoration of buyer intent. Concerns. The 1 minute anchored VWAP 27,874.97 remains a significant overhead bearish obstacle, and the current price is within 20 points of this level, which restricts the potential for an immediate, high-probability breakout move. Long entry option. A long entry becomes valid only upon a confirmed breakout and hold above the 1 minute anchored VWAP 27,874.97. Target 27,901.25, with invalidation below 27,840.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a failed test and rejection at the 1 M anchored VWAP 27,874.97. Target the 1 minute EMA 200. 27846.24, with invalidation above 27,885.0. Summary. The market is in a tactical recovery, working to flip the former EMA resistance back into support, I am. Waiting for a decisive challenge of the anchored VWAP to determine if this recovery has the momentum to sustain a trend or if it will face rejection at the overhead supply.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal, guys. I mean, if you think about it, right? He's talking about if you get that expansion above here, the confirmed expansion. Now, we know that we have 1 hour Lisma really close, so you got to be watching of that, right? But if we get a confirmed rejection from here, right, then he's saying that he could see an opportunity to scalp it back, right? So, but we'll see what the pressure continues here. So right now we're still pressuring very north. So let's look left, right? We know that there is a lot of resistance here around 71. So if we continue to tap on the micro back around that level, right, and we get the push up, you know, we're still very bullish. But if we lose that kind of 71-ish range, right, then it's gonna flip back hard the other way. We know that we had a deep pull followed by a reclaim. So a full reclaim would be up here around 925. Anything below that, right, still has the ability to reject pretty hard. Now, if we break that, the 925, guys, like, sky's the limit, right? It's hard to say, right? But I don't think it's going to do that. I think, if anything, they're going to, remember, Monday is more like trap day, right? They're going to lay some traps for people, you know, to bait them, right? And so anything that stays short of this prior day high, 917, runs the risk of deep sweeps, right? Now, me personally, just the way that I trade, the way that I like to look at the market, I prefer to do that because it keeps us in an oscillatory nature, right? Which is really good for scalping. So, on that. Chuck and some of you others, do you guys notice that on the TikTok? I bet you that's what it was. I'm glad that I found that because it seems like I'm out of the old jail there. So it's funny, you know, all this stuff that you're trying to. So those on TikTok, you know what I'm referring to. I had some suppression going on. I felt right, and so my TikTok is a business account because we obviously, you know, we promote our business, and I didn't notice there was a thing coming across where I had to do a verification, right? So I did verify the business, so now we're fully verified. You guys can see that in there, and seems like it's helping as far as algos and stuff. So that's exciting. But guys, we're still getting the pressure. Remember, I think it was 871 is what we're watching, right? If this continues to hold this support and we can breach wick like we just did here and get the close above, it's going to have a pretty good push. Anything short of that, if we come back down and we get the close below that doji, it should sweep into here, that breach wick, right? If you're looking for a safer short entry, you know, coming down here, getting a breach wick into there and a close down to there, right, would be what you would want to do. So, oh yeah, Chuck, man, that's awesome. You're at 417. Love it. See how we're getting the breakdown, guys?
MNQ has demonstrated strong bullish intent, successfully clearing the anchored VWAP 27,848. 58 and EMA confluence to establish a clear upward trend. Sentiment, bullish pressure. Confidence, 7 out of 10. Reason, price is trading with clear structural separation above the 1-minute Lisma, 27,846.38, and 1-minute, 5 minutes EMA, 27,847. 38 and 27,846.30, confirming a robust recovery from earlier consolidation. Conk. Earns. The price is approaching the 1-hour HTF resistance near 27,901.25, which represents a potential exhaustion point for the current push. Long entry option. A long entry is valid on a pullback. And bounce off the 1-minute anchored VWAP 27,848.58 if price maintains a clear bullish structure. Target 27,901.25 with invalidation below 27,830.0. Short entry option. None, as the current price action reflects strong momentum with no immediate structural rejection evidence. Summary. The Market has transitioned into a clear bullish expansion phase, leaving behind its recent accumulation range. I'm watching for the next test of 27,901.25 to see if this momentum holds or if price will rotate back to find support at the anchored VWAP.
Yeah, so good. So he's basically watching the 901 level, which is right there, right? Anything that kind of pushes up, he's just waiting to see if we get that deep rejection. If we do get that deep rejection, right, then that would pull us back to that VWAP, right, which would be the 848, which is down here. And so I always, guys, I don't always just look at the short none long entry, right, because it's not a buy sell indicator, right? What's his concerns, right? What's his summary? If he tells me, hey, if we get up and test the 901 and we fail, right, and we begin to get that rejection, if my structure sets up, if I'm taking quick scalps with TPs, right, I'm not opposed to taking that. And so let's just kind of watch. Again, that 900 range is going to be big. I think really the 896. This is probably one of the most important levels for me because of that 4-hour flat top, right? Anything that stays below that 896 is going to be met with a pretty deep sweep south, right? But if we can sweep that and breach that flat top that we have on it, it could get pretty violent to the north. So we got to keep watching the micro setups and see, in these micro setups, right, what is it doing? Are we getting hammers, inverted hammers, candles? Is bullish stuff playing out? Is bearish stuff playing out, etc., right? And so see how we continue to fail on that area. And so, yeah, so his play right there, if you think about it, right, inverted hammer, off resistance, close below, that was his concern of the long, right? And if you look at the long, he did not want to take it unless, let's look at it, valid on a pullback back. So he didn't even want a long unless we pull back to 848, which we just did. So it is actually bouncing. So, I mean, it's not confirmed yet, so you probably wouldn't have entered it unless you did a limit buy. But it's just still really cool to see it play out, guys. So we have a breach wick here. You know how that works. We get that rear back. Here's the high, here's the low, here's our halfway. Any kind of rejection here in that halfway that comes down is going to come down likely pretty hard. Now, if it continues to push up like it is, now we're more structure where you get the pull, push, kind of pull, and then it's going to, that lower low pull, and then the reclaim will try to push again, right? Now we are at the top of that prior day high, right, which is there. And so anything in this range, you got to just kind of assume that we're going to be more bearish than bullish until we break above that. I don't like taking any longs in here. I just won't do it. So 1 minute, we did get a deep sweep and a push. We do have 2 pretty heavy hammers there. So a close above 879 up in here, it's going to likely give a pretty good push. Anything that fails to close that and pulls down, if we get a close below there, it's going to give us a pretty big drop, right? And so pressure is still a little bit more northern, but I'm not opposed to the northern pressure because we did get a good bounce off of the 200, right? Plus all this kind of cluster of support. So the northern pressure that we're seeing is not really way out of bounds,
MNQ is currently testing the 1 minute anchored VWAP 27,874.94 from below, showing signs of exhaustion after the recent upward expansion. Sentiment: bearish pressure. Confidence: 5 out of 10. Reason: price has failed to sustain the push above the 1 minute anchored VWAP and is now producing a red high Kinashi candle, indicating potential resistance at this level. Conk. Earns.
Conk. He hates
the 1
that
minute
word.
Lisma,
I gotta fix
27,851.26, and 1 minute EMA, 27,848.70, are currently acting as immediate support, creating a tight range. That may cause a consolidation before a definitive move. Long entry option. A long entry becomes valid on a confirmed breakout and hold above the 1 minute anchored VWAP, 27,874.94, target 27,901.25, with invalidation below 27,848.0, short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a confirmed failure to reclaim the anchored VWAP and a subsequent break below the 1 minute LS. MA, 27,851.26, Target the 1 minute EMA 200 confluence, 27,848.70, with invalidation above 27,885.0. Summary. The market is in a delicate balance at the anchored VWAP. I am observing whether buyers can mount another attempt to clear this resistance or if the bearish pressure will force a rotation back toward the EMA support cluster.
Yeah, good advice. The let me see. Yeah, so I'm watching this 874 because that's what he was talking about, right? If we can't claim this area here, any kind of sweep here with a close here, right, would push us pretty hard. Now, my concerns from a micro level, that's what I was kind of looking at. We have a very bearish kind of structure here, right? That found support on the prior highs there. If this is as bearish as it looks that it should be, right, coming off prior day high, coming off some pretty good resistance, like this should have came to here. It didn't, right? So it's got to bring a little concern, right? As far as how strong the bulls actually are. So now we have the doji set here. We have one there. We did get a close there. That should have also pulled it down. We're now 1, 2, 3 hammers or absorption to the north, right? The only thing that's a little divergence that I'm watching is the candle progression, the way the bearish side is failing and the 1 minute's looks like it should go more northern. But for now, we're still getting DOM drops. You know what I mean? And so that tends to put my spidey sense into this, like, if the candles and everything is looking bullish, why are we getting order flow more bearish? Like, the pressure is more bullish, but the drops, like, out of nowhere are more bearish, right? And so it just kind of tells you, like, that's why I said good advice, right? Because it's in a delicate balance, right? And it's just unclear which one's going to win because, structure of candles and some invalidations suggest that it should go more north. But some of those drops that are coming across out of nowhere, right, suggest that it should go more south, right? And so it's kind of in a weird spot. Now, I know that anything under here is going to be dangerous to go long. Now, if you're going long on these scalps and stuff, that's fine, but just get in, get out, right? We're not going to be very, long-term bullish unless we can get above here, 896, right? And now if the market makers or the hedge fund bots want to push us, they got to push it through that, right? And if they push it through that, it's likely going to push up enough to sweep wick that, which would be this high. And if we lose that, that's what would be our deep pull, right? But that's assuming that they decide they want to push us through, right? So, but I want to keep watching the DOM and just see kind of how's the order flow continuing to act, right? That's what's mostly important to me right now. So let me look at something. So we're coming into that area, right, which is also the RB now. Now we're getting some DOM jumps. Do you see that jump? So we just barely breached that. A close above that,
MNQ
guys,
has successfully
really
reclaimed and held the anchored VWAP 27,874. 88, signaling a shift back to bullish momentum as it probes higher liquidity, sentiment, bullish pressure. Confidence, 6 out of 10. Reason, price has broken above the 1 minute anchored VW. AP, and the 1 minute LISMA, 27,854.83, has flipped bullish, providing a structural base for the current leg higher. Concerns, the price is now approaching the 1 hour HTF resistance level at 27,901.25, which represents a significant ceiling that could trigger a reversal or stall in the current expansion. Long entry option, a long entry is valid on a confirmed breakout and hold above the 27,881.0 level. Target 27,901.25, with invalidation below 27,870.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a failed test of the 279. One resistance or a clean break back below the 1 minute anchored VWAP, 27,874.88. Target 27850.0, with invalidation above 27905.0. Summary. The market has regained bullish control by clearing the VWAP hurdle. I am focusing on the test of the 27,901.25 resistance, which will dictate whether the current move continues or if the market needs to rotate back to find support.
Yep. Again, guys, good advice. He wants to see this stay above 81. So when he says confirm, right, we have a push close, right, but we have the breach wicks. We need a bounce here and a close above those dojis would be considered his sustained hold, right? Short move is valid if we test the 901, which we did right there, and we get a complete rejection, right? Break back below the 874. So he's actually telling you, and this is some of the stuff he's doing now that he has a little more personality, right? Is that he's saying, hey, I want a retest of this, but I also want a clean break, right, of the 874. And so notice how we got the retest rejection there, but we didn't quite get below a close below that 874. Now, again, those that are in the development program and mentor program, you guys know we're using this more for potential like critical level bias, right? And so even if I come down here, I have a cluster of support. I want to see a breach wick, rear back, close below, then I would take it. That's more, you know, if you're doing like singular or maybe one DCA type stuff, right? Or you want that safer play. So is mostly what he's looking at on that. So still, again, you know, guys, like I said, it's funny to watch this play out because remember I was saying, as bearish as it kind of looked, we're getting a lot of bullish candle progression, and that is playing out, right, more so. Now we're getting a lot of sell pressure, so sellers are not gone. You know, they're definitely not gone. You know, anything that you short near here is going to be dangerous because, you know, but if we can get through here or high enough away from that, right, your safer play is going to be to get through here, because when you get into this area, right, there's really not blocking it. Remember we were talking in the mentor group this morning about like the quick moves, right? That's kind of your quick move area, if you will. So so let me look at something. Yeah. So we do, now our trap, you know, played out well. We did have a trap call there. We do have a trap call there. The 5-minute trap upper is around 914, right? We know that we're in this box. Typically when you get a breach wick close below that, out of that box, you get a pretty deep, you know, pull. But we're still getting a little down pressure north, but that's expected in the range that we're at, right? And so let's see. How's everybody doing so far? If you're doing the tight TPs, right, you should be okay, right? If you're patient with your entries on that. Good job.
I'm down 1,000.
You're down?
I jumped into NQ instead of the MNQ.
Oh,
mistake, so
you paid the stupid tax.
yeah.
MNQ is currently testing the 1-minute Lisma, 27,859.88, and 1-minute anchored VWAP, 27,851.67, confluence after a failed attempt to hold the recent highs, signaling a potential rotation back into the range. Sentiment, bearish pressure, confidence, 5 out of 10. Reason, price has retraced from the recent highs and is now producing a red Heiken Ash. I candle while losing momentum above the 1-minute Lisma, suggesting that the recent bullish surge is facing meaningful profit taking concerns. The 1-minute anchored VWAP and 1-minute EMA 27,851.8 are providing a dense layer of support, which could act as a buffer against further downside and potentially trigger a bounce. Long entry option. A long entry becomes valid only if price demonstrates a clean bounce off the 27,851.0 to 27,855.0 support cluster and reclaims the recent high of 27885.0, target 27,901.25. with invalidation below 27,845.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a confirmed break and hold below the 1-minute anchored VWAP 27,851.67 and 1-minute EMA 200. 27851.8, confluence. Target 27815.0 with invalid. Asian above 27875.0. Summary. The market is undergoing a corrective phase. After testing resistance, I am monitoring the 27,851.0-27855. Zero support zone. A breakdown here would confirm a deeper rotation, while a successful hold would suggest continued consolidation in the upper portion of the current range.
I love. Do you notice the difference, guys, since we added the personality where on the summary he's like, I am monitoring this range. That's so cool. Yeah. So again, guys, we're in a weird spot. I agree with him because anything that holds below here has a risk of a pretty good drop, right? But the candle progression is trying to continue to be more bullish. This is going to be a big one here because we have a push, kind of, little parallel. We also have a nice absorption to the north. We have a close above, higher low. That all suggests it should jump. If that actually reverses, right, then that'll be our first bullish invalidation, right? And so we can watch and see. So it's trying to jump like it should, right? So when this pushes, it should be able to breach these highs pretty easily if it still has strength, right? If a failure of breaching this high here, if we push up and we get to another doji and a pull, it's likely going to be pretty deep, right? So let's watch and see. We're just trying to see how the bull's getting tired, right? When it holds below here, that just hit like every damn TP across all 6 accounts I was trading. Do y'all see the importance of setting a TP? Holy shit. Let me check this real quick, guys. Hold on. Make sure all my accounts are out. That worked. I'm going to answer your question on that TikTok here in just a second. Let me make sure I'm all good here. And I am. So that's awesome. So when it says holds below here, can you say what number that is pointing at? It's a small screen. Yeah, and so I am on YouTube as well. I have TikTok here, streaming both, but I will definitely try to do that better. I'll do that because I do know what you mean. And guys, on TikTok, I know, especially if you're on a phone, right, it's going to be smaller because of not only the way the aspect is, but I use a multi-time frame when I trade, and so I have 15 second, 1 minute, 5 minute, and normally this will be fully expanded, right, like that, but I'm trying to also give a little room for Neo to talk. So you guys that are listening on TikTok, you should be able to hear Neo as well. He's going to likely tell you those kind of things too, like, hey, if we get a rejection off here, play off here, all that. But I will do that as well when I say, below here. So good point. And so what I'm looking at on this price, what I was saying is as we were pushing here, this is our cluster, which is around 852. And so we got a breach of that. If we get a close below that breach low, which is 849 on the micro side, right, that's going to sweep us pretty hard. So this is kind of what
MNQ
I
has
was
broken
waiting
back
on.
below the 1 minute anchor
I'll let him
VWAP
talk for a second.
27,874.94 and the 1 minute LISMA 27,866.7, marking a loss of the short-term bullish control. Established earlier, sentiment, bearish pressure, confidence, 6 out of 10. Reason, price is now trading beneath the anchored VWAP and is oscillating around the 1 minute EMA 200, 27,852. 70 and 5 minutes EMA 200, 27,847.25, indicating that these levels have transitioned from support to overhead resistance. Concerns. The price is currently trapped in a high density area where the EMA confluence and the anchored VWAP create significant resistance, making it difficult to establish a high conviction short. Until price demonstrates a clean separation from this zone, long entry option. A long entry becomes valid on a confirmed reclaim and hold above the 1 minute anchored VWAP 27,874.94 target 27,901.25. With invalidation below 27,850.0, short entry option. A short entry becomes valid if price demonstrates a rejection of the current EMA cluster, 27,850.0, and confirms. A break below 27840.0, target 27815.0, with invalidation. Above 27865.0, summary. The market has entered a corrective phase following the failed breakout above the anchored VWAP. I am watching for a decisive break of the current support cluster until price clears this range with conviction. The path of least resistance remains tilted to the downside.
Yeah, and so we're getting a good pressure push here, guys. Not surprising, you think about it, right? We had a very bearish area. We ended up getting a deep sweep. We absorbed it to the north, right? Any kind of close above this northern here is going to give it a pretty good expansion as well. But when we see this kind of structure where it pushes down like that and it pushes up, this is critical, because if it cannot break that 897 area, right, and we get any kind of rejection pull, then it's going to come back really hard. But if we get a close above here, somewhere in that 900 area, right, we're gonna push really hard. So we're definitely in a pretty critical area here. So I want to see if we're getting that rejection or not, or are we gonna want to just go? Okay, so we broke through it, right, that 896. Now we want to see, does it hold, right? If we look here, the next high area is going to be that 922. We can still reject from that and then come down and reclaim that. If it pushes there and rejects and we lose that 896, the quicker we do it, right, tells me a lot, right? If it does it pretty fast right now, like if we hit that and then reject pretty harsh, you know, that ends up more stop hunt, right? And the pull could be pretty violent. But I still, you know, my thing, guys, as far as the bearish side of things, you know, we're still more absorption to the north on 5-minute candles, right? And we're still within that kind of doji, trying to close outside of that, you know, so it still doesn't scream bearish. So if you're taking shorts, you know, just little quick scalps or defensive plays are better. The break and hold that we were talking about here, this was a pretty fast OA kind of open air move, but it didn't hold it. We absorbed back into the cluster of support, right? And so now it's just trying to determine, you know, for me, this prior day high is going to be critical, right? Which is the 918. So anything that stays below this still runs a risk of a deep draw, guys. Now, where I would not consider any more shorts, or I would just, you know, look maybe long potentially. For my bias, mostly I'm looking for more shorts. So if we blow through this prior day and we hold above that area, which is going to be 917 or so, you know, that shorts are dangerous, because how high we can go from there is just going to be nasty, right? We could push all the way to that 28. And so let's take a look. I want to see. Yeah, see, we're getting that little bit of a rejection here. Let's see if it holds though, right? See how we're pressuring this resistance, the doji. If we get that close below 892, right, that should pull us back to the 872 on the micro. And so that'll tell me if
MNQ has aggressively pushed through its overhead structural hurdles and is now testing the 1-hour HTF resistance near 27,901.25, confirming a shift to a robust bullish expansion. Sentiment, bullish. Pressure, confidence, 8 out of 10. Reason, price has successfully reclaimed and expanded beyond the 1-minute anchored VWAP, 27,875.1, 1-minute LISMA, 27,871.66, and EMA 200 confluence, with clear structural separation indicating strong buyer intent. Concerns. The price is currently challenging the 1-hour HTF resistance level, which is a major historical pivot that often triggers profit taking or a temporary stall in momentum. Long entry option. A long entry is valid on a confirmed breakout and hold above the 1-hour HTF resistance level, 27,901.25, target 27945.0, with invalidation below 27,885.0, short entry option. A Short entry becomes valid only if price demonstrates a clean rejection at 27,901.25 and breaks back below the 1 minute. Anchored VWAP 27,875.1, target 27854.0, with invalidation above. 27,915.0, summary. The market has entered a powerful bullish phase, clearing all immediate resistance levels. I am focusing on the interaction with the 27,901.25 HTF resistance, a successful breakout. Here would signal significant further upside, whereas a rejection would likely lead to a standard consolidation rotation.
I mean, yeah, it's good advice. So like I said, as long as we stay below that 901, right, we're either going to consolidate or begin to break down. But the way we're looking here, if you see we have a push kind of bull flag, that's a big one, because on the micro, if we do break out, which is kind of is, right, that should breach wick up above here. Anything short of that would be our first bullish structural pattern, right, that is failing. And so that'll tell you a lot. Again, the fact that we're below this prior day high, some other key levels are really going to make a difference, right? So I'm gonna move this up a little because I'm not going to watch as much. That I want to kind of mark this prior high area there just for later down the road. So see how we bull flag push, tried to break out, didn't quite break out. Now we're still within that parallel, right? So we could have a absorption like we just did. See how with the sweep and then the absorption close above that 897, right, is going to push it high enough to likely breach wick and close and then give the pressure it needs. Anything short of that, remember we do the high low, right? If we're low close, then it should have enough to breach wick this low of the 867. So let's just kind of see what the micro is telling us. Remember guys, the micro is always going to tell you a story within. So see the failure. So now this failure is huge because this failure of that, it's still in channel, right? So if this is going to truly collapse, this should sweep into this area, right? It should not bounce and reclaim that area too heavily. And so although the bears are trying, I don't know that the bulls are completely given up, right? That there's still that chance we can blow through this. So let's look and see. We got a minute to close above here. The anchored VWAP is not a time. The anchored VWAP is going to be on the price. So when you do the anchored, right? So whenever he turned on this morning is when he anchors it, which I think he turns on at 6. And so if you wanted to kind of follow that, you just have to drop an anchored VWAP on 6. I think we have him drop it on the 1 minute, if I recall. But you can drop it on the 1 minute around that time. But again, guys, see how we're trying to break out again, and look at it still has not quite shown enough strength to even breach wick it. So I'm gonna watch the DOM, I think, pretty heavily here, because that's gonna tell me a lot. Because if we're getting jumps where we should be getting drops, right? Bulls are stronger, right? If we're getting drops where we should be getting jumps.
MNQ is maintaining its bullish stance, showing resilience as it tests the 1 hour HTF. Resistance at 27,901.25, while being well supported by the 1 minute anchored VWAP, 27,855.28, and the EMA 200 confluence, sentiment, bullish pressure. Confidence, 7 out of 10. Reason, price is successfully holding above its key structural indicators, and the 1 minute LISMA, 27,877.41, is providing a rising floor that keeps the primary trend momentum to the upside. Concerns, repeated tests of the 1 hour HTF resistance without a decisive breakout indicate growing absorption, which increases the likelihood of a temporary pullback or consolidation before the next leg higher. Long entry option, a long entry, is valid on a confirmed breakout and hold above the 27,904.0 level, target 27945.0, with invalidation below 27,885.0. Short entry option, A short entry becomes valid only if price fails to sustain the 27,885.0 level and breaks below the 1-minute Lisma, 27,877.41. Target the anchored VWAP at 27,855.28 with invalidation above 27910.0. Summary. The market is in an expansionary phase and is currently digesting resistance. I am watching for a clean, sustained move above 27,904.0 to confirm that buyers have enough power to continue the trend, or a failure at current levels that would suggest a rotation back toward the anchored VWAP.
Yeah, so, and Brent, I wouldn't try to chase that too much. That's why I make sure in his code he's always going to tell you the level that he's looking at, so you'll be able to see what it is. But
yeah, I know. It's just I like to visual, I like to see it,
I know.
and I can't see it on my chart.
Well, in all fairness, there's a lot going on behind the scenes from him that you can't see. But yeah, I know what you mean, because it's a specific number, right? And we're actually going to create, I don't have to figure out how we're going to do it on the indicator, but we've actually talked about it, and we're going to probably do it where we're going to create an indicator that lines up with a lot of these numbers, and we'll call it like the Neo indicator, right? And then you can just throw that on your chart. So we'll work on that at some point once we can get to that. So I'm just kind of watching this, guys, and it's similar along lines of what he's saying, right? This 900 area is critical, right? So we have a push here that failed. We have a push here that's failing, right? And see the DOM drops. If we get DOM drops that do not absorb, right, as we're kind of getting a little here, we could be in for a pretty nasty pull, right, back to the south. But so far, each time we've had a deep sell-off, we've had a deep absorption, right? And so, his if you look at his logic from the last one he said, right, is, if we fail to sustain above that kind of 900 range, he's looking for some kind of consolidation at that point for determination of breakout, right, above it or below it. And so we're kind of doing that, which is really cool to see that he was able to interpret that early, because it's kind of what we're doing, right? We're just kind of consolidating in the range right now. So let's just keep watching the DOM and see where's the pressure holding, guys. So as of right now, right, it's just a failure, kind of normal pullback, but I want to see if we can breach into the RB. If we breach this, get a close below, it's going to come down. We do have a gap fill there, so suggests that it should happen, but we still have to get through it, right? And so I want to see how, each time it does these deep pulls, how much yeah, I see what you're saying. Let me look. Sorry, nothingness. Sorry. So we're live also, and so I'm trying to watch the charts here, but I do have some moderators in there that are kind of watching as well. So if I miss a question over there, I'll try to get back to it.
testing the structural integrity of its recent gains, hovering just below the 1 hour.
Give me 1 second. We'll let Neo do it, and then I'll respond to that.
7,901.25 while maintaining a bullish posture above the 1-minute Lisma. 27,886.8 sentiment. Bullish pressure. Confidence. 6 out of 10. Reason. Price remains well supported by a rising 1-minute Lisma and the EMA. 200 confluence. 27,858.14. And despite a red high Kinashi candle, the structural trend remains firmly pointed upward. Concerns. The price action shows increasing sensitivity near the 27,901.25 HTF resistance, suggesting that exhaustion or profit taking is preventing a clean breakout at this moment. Long entry option. A long entry becomes valid on a confirmed breakout and hold above 27906.0, targeting 27945.0, with invalidation below 27,885.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid if price fails to clear the 27,901.25 resistance and confirms a break below the 1-minute Lisma, 27,886.8, targeting the anchored VWAP at 27,856.99, with invalidation above 27915.0. Summary. The market is in a classic consolidation at resistance phase. I am monitoring the interaction with the 27,901.25 level. A breakout would signal a continuation of the bullish trend, while a failure to hold the 1-minute Lisma would open the door for a deeper rotation toward the VWAP.
Yeah. So just looking at your question there, sorry, nothingness. You're still new to this, but as he's saying, is trying to push back down. And so if you're fairly new, one thing you can do when you register, if you go to the website, right, the nextstepalgo.com. So we're actually, it'll probably be done tonight. I'm almost certain it'll be done tonight. I have a training course that is a trading starter kit, and it's free once I release it. It'll probably be there by tonight, maybe tomorrow. So anybody that's on here that's like brand new that wants to get kind of like a understanding, it's not only I called it a trading starter kit because it's a very beginner stuff, but it also we incorporated how to interpret Neo's guidance, and so I think that'll help a lot of you out. But yeah, the best thing if you're newer would be to listen to the summary part of that, because he's kind of told, you know, hey, put out a summary that kind of breaks it down, right? And so you can see his last summary. It says the market's in a classic consolidation at resistance phase. I'm monitoring the interaction with the 27,901 level, right? Breakout would signal a continuation of the bullish macro trend, while a failure to hold the 1-minute Lisma would open the door to a deeper rotation. So he's basically like, hey, we're bullish, but I'm monitoring this level because I see that we're rejecting a lot off of that, right? Which is really cool, because that's what I'm looking at as well, right? And so what I teach in a lot of my stuff, and I just even do it in this pretty much in the open trading for anybody that wants to kind of learn a little more, right, is I use a variation of indicators, but I don't really use indicators to dictate my decision. The indicators will help dictate how strong a price action is. So if a price does certain things like this, right? See that sweep? If we're getting hammers here going more north, a hammer, right, is just going to be, kind of looks like a hammer, right? High body with a wide wick. If we're getting those hammers north, when we close above them, right, it should push. When it closes below them, it should pull. Like even this pull here, that tells you a lot, because how deep that pulls into that indicator or that moving average and how deep it wicks it makes a difference, right, on the order flow. So but yeah, I'll try to take a look on that. When I'm live on this session, I'm doing a lot of trading, so it's kind of tough sometimes to see that. So just be patient, guys, if you ask questions. But see the pull here? This is why I was saying that 900 range is huge, guys, because if we continue to lose that 900 range, you can see the head and shoulders it kind of formed, right? It's going to be usually a pretty deep pull. So, and that's what we're getting out of this right now. So let me look at something. So when I trade, guys, I typically manage, or not manage, but I trade kind of a multitude of my accounts. And so
MNQ has experienced a sharp rejection from the 1-hour HTF resistance level, breaking below the 1-minute Lisma, 27,893.1, and entering a corrective phase back toward key structural support, sentiment, bearish pressure, confidence, 6 out of 10. Reason: price has failed the 27,901.25 resistance, triggered a bearish shift in the 1-minute Lisma, and is showing a clear red high Kinashi progression, signaling a breakdown in the recent bullish momentum. Concerns: the 1-minute anchored VWAP 27,858.33 and the 1-minute EMA 200 27,860.3 are now providing significant structural support, which may stall the current downward move and trigger a bounce. Long entry option: A long entry becomes valid only if price demonstrates a clean bounce off the 27,858.0 to 27,860.0 support zone and reclaims the 1-minute LS. MA 27,893.1, target 27,901.25, with invalid. Asian below 27,845.0, short entry option. A short entry becomes valid on a confirmed retest and rejection of the 1-minute Lisma, 27,893.1. Target the 1-minute anchored VWAP at 27,858.33, with invalidation above 27915.0. Summary. The market is in a tactical rotation back to test the strength of the previous breakout. Levels. I am watching the 27,858.0 to 27,860.0 zone. A successful defense would suggest a continued range-bound environment, whereas a breakdown through this support would signal a more significant shift to the downside.
So, and guys, keep in mind, so when he does his update, right, he did it there, right, looking at that. So he just he has to get through reading it all, right? And so if you're in here watching Neo, it's easier to pivot. I know like on TikTok it's harder to see the screen from him. But you guys, anybody who wants to watch him, you guys can do it for free.
Hello, I'm Neo. Let's capture the mood.
If you go to the website nextstepalgo.com, register, you just click here on Neo AI session, and then you could read it as well. It's all free. So, but basically, huh?
He has a potty mouth though. I swear he said a bearish shit.
Did he forget the F? No. That's funny. You know, he can control what he says, not what you hear, Michael. But that is funny. Yeah, so we're getting a pretty good push. So again, he was talking about, hey, if we don't break that level, right, and we get a reclaim of that level, which would be pushing up in there around that 884 once we reclaimed it, that he would expect a bounce, right? And so it played out. For his short, right, he wanted it to come up and reject off of 893, right, the Lisma. And so we didn't quite reject off of it. You can arguably take it as a break and a loss of it too. So now if this is broken, if we reject back down, breach wick, close below, right, we're just validating what his thoughts are, which is that we are range bound, right, that we're just consolidating in an area. So let's see if that's what we do. So I want to see if we get a deep breakdown right here. Because right now, right, we're a push into a bearish structure with a deep pull that filled the gap fill I expected, but we came up really hard. If this wants to be deeply bearish, we would have rejected right there, right, 887, and we didn't. We kind of held that. Doesn't mean we're going to the moon, right? Just, again, we're still below our prior day low. As long as we stay below that prior day low, guys, we run a risk of deep sweeps, right? It's just going to be that way. So let's see those pulls, the little drops. Which is normal for a Monday, guys. Mondays, the algos like to go out and, stop hunt, right? They're going to show bullish things and then do deep sweeps to the south, and then bearish things, right? And do deep sweeps to the north. So it's not abnormal that what it's doing. Not for a Monday anyways. So I'm just kind of watching the DOM.
MNQ is currently attempting to recover after testing the lower support bounds, now grinding against the overhead. Resistance of the 1-minute Lisma, 27,897.78, sentiment, bullish pressure. Confidence, 5 out of 10. Reason, price has reclaimed the EMA 200 confluence and is showing green high Kinashi progression, attempting to re-establish the bullish trend that was interrupted near 27,901.25. Concerns. The 1-minute Lisma remains a bearish trending structural obstacle that has yet to be decisively cleared, and the price remains caught between this resistance and the anchored VWAP 27,859. 3-3, support, long entry option. A long entry becomes valid only on a confirmed breakout and hold above the 1-minute Lisma 27,897.78, target 27925.0, with invalid. Asian below 27,875.0, short entry option. A short entry becomes valid. On a failed test and rejection at the 1-minute Lisma, 27,897.78, target the 1-minute anchored VWAP at 27,859.33, with invalidation above 27915.0. Summary. The market is in a recovery cycle trying to reclaim the primary trend resistance. I am waiting for price to clear the 1-minute Lisma with conviction before confirming that the bullish momentum has returned to test the highs. Until then, expect continued range-bound oscillations.
Yeah, range-bound oscillations. Again, it's funny how he's kind of flipping from the bearish pressure, bullish pressure, but remember, pressure is supposed to just be noted based on what he's seeing through the order flow, right? Where the pressure's coming in at. And if we're consolidating, you're going to see that flip-flop, right? But I love how he's identifying the difference and the balances between those pressure, calling it consolidation type zone, right? And if you guys recall, early on, he said typically a rejection off these levels, if it wants to go higher, will create some form of consolidation zone. So it's cool to see that that's playing. You guys remember here we had a kind of a bull flag failure, right? Came down, swept it, creates that low. We're kind of creating another bull flag, right? So if this one can pop and create a big explosion, then we're still in play on a push possibility, right? But if that pushes up and rejects hard again, it's going to create a lower low. So from the micro. So let's just keep watching this kind of micro push that we're getting, because where this high lands is so important, guys. So important. So let's see if any kind of rejection here will be harsh, but if we push through this with any kind of strength, it's going to retest that prior day high at 917. That's mostly what I'm watching right now to see. Yeah, so let's see if we get any kind of, see the dumb jump. Let's see if the bears absorb it. So the bull flag this time created a higher high. Now where this retraces back is important, right? If it stays above 905, arguably 902, in any kind of pullbacks, it's going to jump again. If that pullback comes through and closes below that, right, then we're still in consolidation phase. It's going to pull back again. So looking at the macro, you can see we are doji. So close above 909 would be bullish, below would be bearish. Still holding above that POC, right? So we're not quite, it's funny, like the bears are trying to kick in on the prior day high to keep us low, but the bulls are still just providing strength, like it wants to just go. So got to be careful. So we just swept the prior day high. That's what I was waiting for. Now this sweep is huge. If we sweep, close hard, it's going to drop really fast. So watch this close. See how we rejected almost perfectly on it. Now the question is how deep that the rejection goes is going to tell us, are we going to breach that high, or are we going to reject hard off it? So we did get a deep rejection off of it, guys. That was like almost $20, and then ended up forming into a hammer. So a close above that should push a new high. A close below that should drop pretty far, right? And we'll create a new low from here.
MNQ has successfully reclaimed the 1-minute Lisma, 27,902.96, and pushed beyond the prior high, signaling a renewed bullish expansion that tests the strength of the short-term trend. Sentiment, bull. Ish pressure, confidence, 7 out of 10. Reason, price has achieved a confirmed break and hold above the 1-minute Lisma and maintains solid structural separation from the 1-minute anchored VWAP, 27,875.77, and EMA 200 confluence, 27,863.48, confirming a robust recovery. Concerns. The current price is extending into new highs, which may lead to a brief consolidation or a pullback to retest the breakout level at 27,902.0 before further upside can be realized. Long entry option. A long entry is valid on a pullback and bounce off the 1-minute Lisma, 27,902.96 level, targeting 27945.0, with invalidation below 27,885.0. Short entry option. A short entry becomes valid only if price fails to hold the 1-minute Lisma and breaks back below 27,890.0, targeting the anchored VWAP at 27,875.77, with invalidation above 27915.0. Summary. The market has confirmed its bullish intent by clearing the recent consolidation range and reclaiming the 1-minute Lisma. I am looking for the 27,902.0 level to act as a new support floor to facilitate a move toward higher liquidity targets, keeping in mind that any return below this level would signal a potential trap.
Yeah, and so again, you guys know, I mean, being the one that coded them, right? Isn't that something that I would say? We're pushing it up, but still watching that level, because that 902 level was very critical. So if we push up and we reclaim that, it's going to be a pretty bad trap, right? Like a bull trap. Anything short of that, right? We're now breaking through areas that are projected to push more, right? So now we're in these high. This is a critical level. Remember, I marked there, which is the 27,925. That's our prior high, guys, of that nasty kind of news drop we had this morning, right? We were there, we dropped really far, and then now we have a full reclaim. This is huge, because if we close above that with any kind of strength, guys, it's pretty high probability we're going to push back up to that all-time high. But if we reject here with any kind of strength or conviction right back, then below that 902, it's going to be a pretty nasty fall, right? So this is it's kind of playing out, where I was thinking. Like I said, we're getting a lot of DOM drops, but a lot of them were being absorbed, which is pretty much where that hammers get created, right? And so candle progression was suggesting we were going higher. The drops are suggesting the bears are not gone, but the candle progression basically dominated, right? So now he said exactly what I would be thinking is, if you want to go short, right, I want it to come back down and lose that 900 level, because if it does, within that kind of structure that it has, right, if we lose that level here, then it's going to be a pretty good sweep, right? But as of right now, the pressure is still, pretty northern. So we're just trying to identify, are we really pushing northern, or are we setting up some form of a trap play, right? Is really all we're looking at. So let me look at something. So I'm just looking to see, do we get any kind of weakness at all? We got 10:45, guys, so we're mostly done for the open session. I'm gonna leave Neo on, and I will shut it for a minute when he gives his guidance there. But any questions? We'll kind of pause for a minute. Any questions on TikTok or here in the room? Or if you want to share how you guys did or thoughts, any questions, you can type them out too if you can't talk. So I'll give you guys a little moment.
I need to stop trading market open, because for my personal strategy, dude, I went under on 3 evals, hit my drawdown on 3 of them. And now that the volume is slowing down a little bit, I'm up 142 in one account, another 250 in another. So.
Yeah. And remember, that's kind of what we talked about when we were talking last time, is that,
MNQ is in a clear
I'm going to
bullish...
mute him for this, but isn't it funny how I've had this conversation with so many people where I will literally, they're like, man, I don't know what the problem is. I do this, and when I do this, I do so good, but when I do this, I don't, I get stuck, and, anytime I trade in this time frame, I always get stuck, and I always just kind of respond to that with, well, don't trade in that time frame, right? And so, we talked about that a little bit, that if trading market open tends to be where you get caught, maybe don't trade market open, right? Like, put a strict rule that says, I'm going to let it go 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Like, yeah, And that's what Brent was just saying. You can set those lockouts, right, in the TradeOvate, which is cool. But yeah, that was one of the funniest one-on-ones I had a long time ago. I had with the lady that she's not here anymore, and she's like, I don't get it, man. I get wrecked every time I try to trade open. I lose all my accounts, and then I go into 11 to 1 p.m., like the afternoon type sessions, and I call everything, like I crush it, and I don't really know what to do. And like my mind goes crazy when I hear that, because I'm like, sometimes the simplest answer is the best, right? Like, don't trade open and trade 11 to 1. I mean, not every market condition is the same. Not everybody can read each market condition the same, right? They're always going to be different. So quickly, guys, just while this is doing this, we did break above the prior high. Any kind of pull here is normal, should happen. Any kind of pull here, if we want to continue to explode, would need to get a bounce, right? A pretty heavy down bounce. Any kind of break back into here would be a little bit of a higher time frame stop hunt, right? And so we want to really see how this reacts right now. So but yeah, I mean, I'm glad you were able to kind of work your way up on that,
Yes, sir.
Michael. But yeah, I would take that as a rule, man. Just like first 30 minutes, I ain't touching it. Right? And that'll help you kind of with possible discipline and stuff too as well. So anybody else, any questions, thoughts? Even TikTok, I'll kind of watch over here to see if you guys have any. Anybody want to share your P&Ls? I know a lot of the mentor group were green last night, so I don't know if y'all took much trades today, but
I got 517 on an eval this
Nice.
morning.
Good job, Cody.
good job. Brent, you got 399. Nice.
I got 965.
Nice. Good job, though. Very cool, guys. Yeah, so just some quick updates, guys, for the room then. And if anybody else has any questions or you want to chime in, just put your hand up or you can kind of cut me off there. Some exciting updates for those that may have missed the early discussion on it. We've been working really hard with Neo, obviously, to keep improving him. But we've actually incorporated a code that now actually lets him have more of a personality, right? And that's why you're seeing a little more things in there that he says, like, I am waiting for this. I am, because he's now got like a personality of like, you are the trader. As far as him reading it very report-like, we're kind of forcing him to do that because it's kind of what we want this stream to be, right? We want him to read it like it's a report. But it's cool to see his personality adjust some things, right? Like instead of saying none and that's it, right? He wants to explain why he doesn't see a trade, right? And that comes from, I think, a lot of the other logic when I add the personality to teach him to be kind of a coach is I kind of added in some logic that said, hey, the missing piece for a lot of traders is the why, right? I want you to outline why you took a trade, why you think we're bullish, why we shouldn't take a trade. Like the why is really important, right? And so for him to add that on his own was really cool because I didn't, that logic's kind of been in there, but since we gave him a personality, he seemed to think or feel that was a very important thing to add, which it is. And so very cool. And so we have a lot of really good stuff we're doing with Neo. I'm not going to go deep into all of that because I do want to get to the development session on time, and we have about 10 minutes. Landon, the biggest change in your trading is setting the profits and account loss limits. Yeah, that does work. What's up, Ben? Man, you need to get back in, man. We got AI up in here. I mean, it's a whole different world. Get you back into it. But yeah, we have a lot of really cool things, guys, that we're working on with Neo. Some awesome things I want to announce with it. He is going to be, now that he has a personality, one thing I will kind of share, because this is the first leg of what we're going to do, is now that he has a personality, right, as you guys all know, we have these trading courses here. When you come into the trading course, if you're in a specific chapter, let's say, you're going through this course and you have a question about anything. Like, let's say you're going through it and you're like, man, what is volatility, characteristics or contract specification? Like, I don't even know what that means. we're going to slide this over, and you're going to have a button, a microphone that you can actually talk to Neo. And you can say, hey, Neo, I'm on this lesson here. I don't really understand what that means. Can you elaborate? And he's going to come on kind of like you would with like Grok or, ChatGPT, when you use the voice function. And the goal is to get him to come on and actually feel like he's talking to you, right? And you can ask questions. He's got full spectrum to elaborate on all of it, and that way, you're not really going through any course or doing anything without like a deep, full understanding, right? And so that's kind of what we were aiming for. We pushed a lot of that code and logic over the weekend, and I was a little worried that it might break his TA, right? But it didn't. It's actually made it better. So very exciting. So that's what we're working on. Alex is building it. I don't know timeline wise, but y'all know, Alex, he builds things really fast. And so I don't think it's going to take very long to get something like that up. Now, where that is going to be huge, right, is when you come in and let's say you're following Neo, you're on this page.
Hello, I'm Neo. Let's capture the move.
We're going to also incorporate it where you'll have a microphone or something in here that you can say, hey Neo, I'm in this trade at this entry, a little bit concerned, I'm in this short, like, what are your thoughts, right? And he's going to give you a real-time breakdown of like, hey, and it'll be conversational, like you're talking to a trading partner, right? And he's going to break down what his concerns are, right? And he'll keep that mic open as long as you want to keep on talking, right? From within. So very, very cool stuff. We're going to even expand even further, like with our trading view stuff, the indicators. I want to make it to where you guys can also, talk to him in there and say like, hey, can you explain to me, I don't know, let's use the precision entry one. Like say you got that and you go, man, I got the precision entry engine, but I'm watching the live stream, Nick's doing, and he has buy and sells that I don't have. He's going to have full spectrum of what that indicator does, and he's going to come back and tell you like, oh, if you go into your little gear cog, setting, here's the settings you want to adjust to make sure you're getting re-entries or whatever. Like, it's literally going to be amazing. Like, you guys, like, this is why I was up so late, man, and I was like, man, we could do it. Like, it's there. Like, we already did it. We already added to the code. Now, we haven't tested how accurate that's going to be. That's part of just, we got to test it, right? But it's there. Like, it's going to be sick, guys. Man, look at these just absolute sweeps. It's crazy how deep that some of these sweeps are coming. But yeah, so a lot of really cool, exciting stuff that is yet to come, guys. And so, you just gotta kind of stick around, and every week that we go through, Neo's getting better. We have a lot of cool tools, ideas. I will say that we are really heavily working on, between Alex and my son and Paul, they're working on creating a kind of an algo to help speed up the creation of our trading courses. And so that is going to be awesome, because once we get this formulated, we'll be able to crank it out, because we have psychological courses already built. We have everything, that I want. And if we manually built these, because the way we do them are really good, it would take quite a bit. So we think we found a good process. For anybody on TikTok who's brand new, I will have this out probably tonight at some point. So tomorrow or later tonight, probably by, I'd say, 9 p.m. at least Eastern. I'll have this up. So the idea of this trading starter kit is that you come in, you take a basic course. It's not going to be very long, maybe 30 minutes to an hour of your time, and it's going to have questions, quizzes, all similar to what we do on the other ones. But it's going to talk to you about literally bare bones from the beginning, right? What charts are, time frames, candles, wicks. And then it's also going to teach you how to interpret Neo's guidance. And so that's going to be huge, I think, for everybody. Now, this course will always be free. So if anybody's wondering, like, oh, how much? This is going to be free, because I'm a firm believer that I don't want people to pay for something unless they really see that they like it, or they see that trading's for them, right? And so there will be no charge for this one for anybody. And so just kind of look for that. You know, if you're on TikTok and you're interested, or you're newer, or you just want to kind of like get a little sense of what Neo's about, you just register on the website, thenextstepalgo.com, and that's also free. And come in and check it out. So it's kind of all I got, guys, for now on that. Any other questions for me, guys? Otherwise, we'll drop off the socials and go into my development session.